GGGI for short, and I've been working with GGGI since 2017. We have our headquarters in Seoul, South Korea. We work closely with a number of member states across the world, several in the continent, and we're intergovernmental. So that means that we work embedded with the different ministries, agencies, and also subnational government within our host country. So for GGGI Rwanda, we are working closely with the Ministry of Infrastructure as well as Ministry of Environment. And we work primarily on green cities. And for us, green cities, it encompasses a number of different areas, including sustainable mobility and e-mobility, as well as circular economy and sustainable waste management. We also have some projects on buildings and construction, and in addition to climate urban resilience. So we have a number of different projects that are really multifaceted, multidisciplinary, and at the same time, they're all supporting the government of Rwanda in the strategies and the priorities that they have set in the updated NDC report, as well as their own national strategies, including the Vision 2050 document and a number of different strategic documents that we really take into our work and embody and encompass the work that we do. So the work for the different country offices can be really varied and based on the national priorities. So for Rwanda, we're working closely with a number of different ministries, especially on green economic growth and climate resilient urban development. Yeah, GGGI was previously started as a think tank and then transformed into a treaty-based international organization. So we still have very close ties to the government of South Korea. Our headquarters is there. We take a lot of lessons learned from the growth process that different cities have taken in South Korea, especially Seoul. And this is a way that we're able to also change the paradigm and make a shift from traditional international development style growth and looking more at rapid economic growth that can happen in a way that's environmentally sustainable, using lessons from especially South Korea, but also across different member states. So a lot of times we'll have bilateral exchanges between Rwanda and Senegal or Mexico and Rwanda, and we'll share lessons learned that way as well. So we really aim to take the best technologies, the best lessons learned, and implement them and contextualize them into our country programs. It's hard to pick just one, but I think most people will see that there is a lot of activity going on at COP27, a lot of new announcements and funding agreements and funding for the private sector, funding for NDC implementation. So it's really exciting to see what the government has been able to do, working not only with the government institutions, but development partners, as well as development banks, Rwanda Development Bank. And the team that has been sent to COP27 has just done a phenomenal job in terms of making the most of all of the existing resources, tapping into new resources, and to really propel the economic growth of the country forward in a way that's also environmentally sustainable and socially inclusive. So it's really speaks to a lot to the principles of green growth and green economy. So it's really just an exciting time for Rwanda. The last COP, things went really well, and the government institutions and the officials that were there did a fantastic job. And then this year, it's just even, exceeded everyone's expectations. And Rwanda typically tends to punch above its weight. It's a relatively small country geographically, but at the same time has really emerged as a leader in so many different climate areas. When you look at the Kigali Agreement amendment, and you look at just a number of different examples of the way that Rwanda is really leading climate action, not only in terms of negotiation and climate diplomacy, but in terms of action. So it's something that's really exciting to see that it's prioritized so high in terms of the list of the priorities of a number of different actions the government is taking. So that is something that I find really inspiring, and a lot of our other country offices also find inspiring. So it's great to see, and we're excited to see how things will actually be implemented once people get home from COP27. There's a lot of work to be done for sure, but GGGI is always happy to support climate action in any way that we can. That's a good question. I think in terms of what is being done right, it's hard to point to just one thing. I think that the importance of climate action has been really instilled at multiple levels. So it's not just a top-down or bottom-up approach. It's really, you know, it encourages community-based action, but also action at the national policy level. It includes action at the different agencies, involving the development partners. So partnerships is really key, but also that it's really infused throughout multiple layers of government, as well as at the community level. So seeing that is really exciting. You have, things that are indigenous to Rwanda, such as National Tree Planting Day. And I was showing photos of National Tree Planting Day to one of my relatives, and they say, "Why are you planting trees?" I was like, "Because it's National Tree Planting Day," and it's something that other countries could emulate and replicate. So there's lots of homegrown examples of ways that Rwanda is really instilling climate action at multiple levels, not only in government but also throughout society, and really involving youth. That's something that I think is really admirable and inspiring as well, the way that youth are really engaged in climate action in Rwanda. In terms of implementation, there are a number of challenges in terms of, when you work with multiple partners, sometimes coordination can be difficult. There's a challenge in terms of dealing with the potential for duplication and overlap. But at the same time, there are mechanisms in place to help with coordinating and strategizing with the different development partners. Sometimes it's difficult when different organizations have their own siloed way of doing things, or they have really specific deliverables that they want to achieve within their own project. But at the same time, there are mechanisms to help with that and to encourage development partners and organizations to share information, as well as to find synergies where possible. So it's not perfect, but I know that in terms of implementation, we've come a long way as an organization for GGGI, but also in terms of how we coordinate and communicate with other development partners and other organizations. There are, sector working groups that help to facilitate the exchange of information and try to identify potential synergies where they are. But at the same time, implementation is, I don't want to say messy, but it's difficult to coordinate. But at the same time, when you have so many different actors that are just really trying to push for climate action and are working in the same space at times, it's natural to have some duplication, but there's no shortage of work at the same time. Yeah, I think there's a few things. One is the opportunity to engage with stakeholders that I don't necessarily normally get to engage with. So some of the participants from other countries, also participants in countries where we do have a country office, so that I can encourage them to be in contact with our GGGI country office there. I'm also looking forward to sharing just the optimism that I have and the inspiration that I feel from the examples that we have here in Rwanda. So for me, that's something that I look forward to most, because I think seeing is believing, and not everyone has the opportunity to be here in Rwanda and experience what's happening in terms of the progress that the city of Kigali is making and all of the measures that are being taken to ensure climate action is taken seriously, and the impact is directed at where it's needed most. So I think those are the two things, like just sharing and engaging with different stakeholders and participants that I don't normally get to engage with, and then also sharing the message of what's possible and rethinking what's possible, because that's something that I've really come away with in terms of my experience working and living in Rwanda. And it's something that I feel like is also needed in the climate space, more optimism. I know there's plenty of research and newspaper articles that are really making the point that we're running out of time, which is absolutely true. Everyone accepts that. But at the same time, there are fantastic examples that we can share, and also just the sense of optimism that if we do come together and we do focus on working together for climate action, we could do fantastic and amazing things. Yes, it's on e-mobility. So I'll be sharing some of the lessons learned from the work that we've been doing, but also encouraging the participants to exchange ideas and exchange lessons learned, because it's something that's new technology being adopted by certain countries, and other countries have been, implementing e-mobility projects for, a number of years, decades. So it's something that I feel like we can all learn from. The technologies are changing, and there's more models that are on the market, and there's also new ways to ensure that the capital expenditure costs for countries is lower, especially for developing and emerging economies. And this is something that GGGI is taking stock of in our e-mobility projects that are taking place in Mexico and Peru and Sri Lanka. So we have a lot of lessons learned from emerging economies that can help with shortening the learning curve for some of the other participants.